All right, I think we're good to go, Reed. We can get started.
Think so? Yep.
Okay, and you guys can see my screen. All right, awesome. Thank you so much, first of all, for joining us today. Really appreciate it on behalf of Fortinet. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us and learn about our solutions. So my name is Chris Zetazate. I'm a channel SC here at Fortinet, and I work with partners such as CDW in ensuring that they have the latest information on our products, as well as ensuring that they are enabled on our latest technology. So I've been with Fortinet for just over 4 years now, and prior to that, I was a professional services engineer for about 6 years with another reseller, and that's where I installed a lot of firewalls, proxies, and endpoint solutions. And in 20 years, in my 20 years in the industry, one of the things I've come to quickly realize is that simplicity trumps complexity. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through this presentation today. So I'll pass it on to Reed to just quickly talk about himself.
Thanks, Chris. And I'm Reed Nelson, Principal Security Architect with CDW. I've been with the organization for about 8 years now. I came over with the Scalar Decisions acquisition back in 2019. I've got 22 years experience in the industry. Started out as a network administrator slash database programmer slash web developer, and then moved into network security about 2007. So I've seen quite a bit in my role as pre-sales, delivery. So I have done a lot of configuration in the past as well. So my role within CDW is I'm a solution architect, and what we really focus on is that pre-sales aspect of engaging with customers to determine what they're looking for, what the requirements are, how we can help them. So I'm basically a free resource to customers to assist them with their journey in terms of any type of network security project. So it's just me that's helping our customers. There's actually a team of about 20 solution architects spread all across Canada. I'm based in Edmonton, so we do have a local presence in a lot of locations to help customers, even coming on site, doing whiteboarding, that sort of thing. And that's really what the value of the CDW solution architect is, being able to sit down with a customer, figure out what their problems are, what the requirements are, to determine the best solution for them to address their particular use case. Next slide, Chris. And from the Fortinet side, CDW is actually a great partner with Fortinet. We're one of the top partners in Canada. So not just our solution architects that are skilled up. For example, I hold the Fortinet FCX, the Fortinet Cybersecurity Expert Certification. So if you're familiar with the CCIE from the Cisco side, it's kind of Fortinet's version of that. So there's a written exam that you have to take. It's quite difficult. And then there's also a practical lab exam where you have to sit down for 9 hours, work through a bunch of problems. So I achieved that in March of this year. So I'm quite happy about that because there aren't a lot of people out there that hold that particular certification. But I think it's just an example of CDW's commitment to Fortinet and what we can do. So not just from the solution architect, the pre-sale side, our professional services team, very skilled, hold a lot of certifications and have a lot of experience working with Fortinet products, working with customers to design those solutions and implement them. And at the same time, on our managed services side, so if you want to have someone take on kind of that operational side of the business to make sure that your FortiGates are up to date, moves, add changes, so additions of firewall rules and that sort of thing. We do have offerings around the managed security side as well to make sure that your firewalls are healthy, your switches and APs are all healthy, and then also from the security side, ingesting log data and then providing 24/7 monitoring for those solutions as well. So I think that's really one of the key things that CDW provides is that end-to-end support for a Fortinet solution, right from we need to do a refresh, we've got some hardware that's out of date, we want to update it. We can get started with that and start working through the entire process of what does a deployment look like, and then what does day 2 look like from an operational perspective, CDW can assist with everything along that journey. So what I'll do now is pass it back to Chris to talk about building a security-driven network.
All right, thanks, Reed. And yeah, just to echo what Reed mentioned, yeah, CDW is definitely one of our top partners. And as you guys heard, if you're familiar with our NSC program, it used to be called NSC 8, it's now called FCX. That is what Reed has. So this is the type of individual, this is the type of organization that you guys are going to be dealing with when you deal with CDW. These are top engineers. So in terms of what we're going to talk about today, I just want to quickly go through the agenda. We'll talk about some of the use cases in terms of building a security-driven network and who needs this. And then I'll pass it back on to Reed to talk about some of the customer challenges and some of his experiences that he's seen as an SA, as a customer, and so on and so forth. And then I'll dive into the solution and then into the GUI, and then we'll do a quick review. And then at that point, for those that signed up for the lab, you'll have the ability to quickly see how easy it is to build your security-driven network. So having said that, I just want to quickly touch on some of the use cases for this security-driven network, right? So one thing that I guess I want you all to think about is looking at this slide, do the network needs basically of a branch office any different than a campus or an enterprise environment or an OT environment or even a small micro branch? And the answer is no, right? So when we look at these different environments, we can all agree that they all need switches, they all need wireless, they all need basically security, right? So all these environments need a security-driven network. In fact, every security out there, whether it's retail, K-12, banking, hospitality, healthcare, government, everyone needs a security-driven network. So at that point, I'm going to pass this back on to Reed to talk about some of the challenges that he's seen.
Thanks, Chris. So with my role as a solution architect, I'm working with a lot of customers in a lot of different verticals. So really what it comes down to these days is a lot I'm hearing about, and this has been going on for probably even before COVID, but users out there, they're on the move, they're out and about. They could either be on site or they could be out at working from home or they're traveling, and they also have multiple devices. So they've got their work issued laptop, they might have their phone, perhaps a tablet or something like that. And then dealing with that part, we also have to look at the applications because they could be anywhere. So looking back 10 years or so, a lot of it was pretty easy because it was all located within a data center. And it did make it easier to secure that particular workloads and applications because they were all within the same spot. But with a lot of customers that I'm working with today, they might have some legacy on-prem, or they've got a data center that they've got somewhere hosted in a colo or something like that. But at the same time, they've also got SaaS applications, Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, those types of things. And then other SaaS applications, infrastructure as a service, Azure, AWS, GCP, that sort of thing. So the challenge is, how do we make sure that the users are connecting from a healthy device, that device hasn't been compromised, that user identity hasn't been compromised? How do we make sure that that workflow, that access is properly secured to make sure that those users can get to their applications, but at the same time making sure that those users aren't facing a lot of security challenges? They don't have to go through MFA a lot. They don't have barriers getting into their particular applications. So really that's what we're looking at today, is there's a lot of complexity, and then at the same time we're facing a lot of pressures organizationally with the amount of solutions that we're taking on, the amount of time that we have in the day, the amount of time or amount of people we have on our team. because I do see a lot of organizations that have a lot of pressure for like FTEs, making sure that they have enough people that can actually manage these solutions. Next slide. So the way that people are kind of addressing these concerns is looking at vendor consolidation. So instead of having those multiple point products that would cover off like a firewall from one vendor, a switch from another vendor, an access point from another vendor, what we're trying to do, or what customers are trying to do, is just focus on trying to get down to a single vendor that can kind of do everything for you. It does make it easier because instead of dealing with 3 different consoles for your firewall, your switch, and your access point, you might only be dealing with one. So it does make it easier from an operational perspective to kind of reduce that amount of effort that you have to spend either on training or keeping up to date with changes from those 3 vendors. You only have to deal with one. So that's where a lot of customers are looking at that vendor consolidation piece, just to try and make their lives easier from an operational perspective. And next slide. So when we look at the network, really what we're trying to do is, one of the key things with security is visibility, having a good understanding of what's happening within your environment, because that's a conversation I have with a lot of customers that are looking, for example, at zero trust. Zero trust is a framework, it's not a product. So if you want to go down that journey, what it comes down to is understanding your environment. So understanding how your users work, what applications that they're accessing, what they're accessing them from a device perspective. So getting that visibility from what's happening within the network, and then being able to apply security properly and in a scalable manner. So when we're looking at maybe a distributed environment where we've got a lot of branches, we want to be able to scale that environment as well to make sure that we can incorporate growth. Performance obviously is a big concern. So there's a lot that goes into making sure that those users are working efficiently, not having problems with jitter and packet loss and that sort of thing. And then being able to manage that scalable environment as well. Because if we've got a lot of sites that are kind of spread across Canada or North America or the world, how do we manage them? And then automation is a big part here. So talking about the operational challenges, making sure that where we can, we're taking into account where we can actually automate things. So if something happens on the network, how do we automate that process so we don't have to have somebody log into a device at 2 a.m. to make a change to address a particular security concern? So these are the kind of 6 keys that we look at when we're looking at a next generation network. And then I'll pass it back to Christopher to talk about the solution.
All right, thanks, Creed. So before I dive into each of these components of our solution, I want to quickly discuss, Fortinet's vision, right? So Fortinet's been around for over 20 years, and throughout those 20 plus years, the vision has always been about security, right? So we're a cybersecurity first company, but one of those things that's evolved over time as well is the importance of integration and automation in terms of all the products that we put out there. And this is why we've always had the security fabric platform where all the components of your environment is integrated together to provide you that secure, integrated, and automated solution, right? Whether it's our secure networking pillar, which is what we're going to talk about today, or the unified SASE, which is mainly for protecting users pretty much anywhere in the world, right? And even optimizing or automating your AI-driven SOC. One thing you'll notice with this platform is that it's been designed with the goal of a single operating system and a single management console in mind. And I believe that this is exactly what sets us apart, right, as a company. And if we look at the requirements of a branch network today, everyone needs a next-gen firewall, everyone needs a wireless connectivity, switching, as well as NAC or network access control. What sets us apart is that we've developed a solution that allows you to easily converge both the networking side as well as the security by basically utilizing a single operating system, right? So what this means is that you now have a solution that understands a network and security because they're speaking the same language. And not only that, with this convergence, you are using a single console to manage your firewall, your switch, your wireless, including the NAC. This means that you have a single configuration that you have to worry about. You have only a single dashboard that you need to learn. Everybody speaks the same language, whether it's the networking team or the security team. And then last but not the least, you only need one license, right? So you just need the firewall subscription to make sure that you are up to date on the signatures as well as the updates, the database. There's no management license for wireless or switching or NAC at all. So that is something to keep in mind as we go through this presentation. And with this solution, you can see that you can have basically a network that is not just secure, but also simple and intelligent. So this solution has the ability to basically respond to threats automatically by basically shutting down a port if a device is deemed vulnerable, for example, whether it's on the wireless side or on the switching side. And it will also ensure that your network can adapt to the changes, such as a connectivity being down, for example. And what allows us to achieve all this is a proprietary protocol called FortiLink, right? So this protocol basically allows us to configure and control your entire network end to end from a single management console. And when I say end to end, this means your LAN, your WAN, your branch, cloud, every part of your network can be controlled from a single dashboard. So in addition to this, we are also providing you FortiLink NAC, which is a simple network access control solution for absolutely no cost. It is included as long as you have the firewall, the switch, and as well as our AP, for example. Speaking of firewall, switch, and AP, so I'm going to go through some of the models that we have and just dive deeper into what we offer in terms of our next-gen firewall, our AP, and switches. So as we look at the slide here, we've got a ton of models on the FortiGate side of things. So that's our next-gen firewall that provides you not just the security component, but also the wireless as well as the switch controller component. So as I mentioned, there is no licensing required in terms of controlling your wireless or switch devices, as long as they're tied into our FortiGate. You are basically managing them from a single dashboard. The other component of this is our FortiAP, which is our wireless access points. So there's over 20 plus models, including a Wi-Fi 7 that we have. We both have internal and I should say indoor and outdoor models with internal and external antennas. And then on the switching side, we have 40 plus models that gives you 1 gig all the way to 100 gig connectivity, both layer 2 and layer 3 switches that is capable or able to deploy as edge switches, campus, data center, even provider type of switches. And before I forget, there's also a ruggedized option, so you guys will see that as well. So in terms of management option, you only need to choose one. So you can either, if you're in a simple environment with maybe just one branch, you may choose to just use the FortiGate as your management console, right? So the FortiGate will allow you again to just manage your switches and AP, right, using the FortiGate GUI. Now, if you're in an environment with multiple branches, for example, you may want to choose to go with our FortiManager, which is our enterprise level management solution that allows you again to manage your entire infrastructure, whether it's the FortiGate, the switches, or the APs. And then for those that are leaning more towards a cloud solution, we do have the FortiLAN Cloud, which has actually now been renamed as FortiEdge Cloud, that allows you to basically manage your environment, whether you choose to go with just the switch by itself as a standalone solution, or the AP as a standalone solution paired up with other products out there or other vendors out there. On top of that, we provide a solution called FortiZTP, which allows you to deploy your entire environment without having to touch these devices, which is called the zero-touch deployment, right? So the way this works in CDW is definitely taking advantage of the solution is they can ship it out to your location without having to configure these devices. So basically, they will be shipped from distribution, and once it comes up, it will automatically connect to our cloud, and then CDW, basically the team can start configuring your devices. So this saves you time, this saves you money from a PS perspective, and just an overall good solution for not just zero touch deployment, but also zero cost, because it's completely free for you guys to use as a customer or as a partner of CDW. So let's
Yeah,
now
I'll say as well, from the management perspective, there's lots of options here, and it really comes down to what your requirements are. So that's where we would step in from the CDW side to work with you to figure out what's going to be the best approach. Whether that's, if you've got a couple of sites, maybe it's just the FortiGate management, and it is very nice. You'll see in the lab that you can just plug a switch and an AP into a FortiGate, and then they just pop up on the console, and you do the configuration from there. But if you do have a lot of sites that are kind of spread around, we can have that conversation about FortiManager as well. And then looking at the zero-touch deployment, doing templating and that sort of thing, just to make it easier to do deployments. We have the options as well to handle those on-site deployments as well. So really, it comes down to what your requirements are and the best approach for you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Reed. And sorry, my apologies. I did forget to mention one thing. So if you guys have questions, just type them in the chat. We have a team that will be looking at those and answering those questions for you. So having said that, let's dive into the core components of this the solution, which is the FortiSwitch and the FortiAP. And just to show you guys the options that you have in terms of switching. So for example, at the base level, which is our 100 series, this is a layer 2 switch, I should say, that comes with either an 8-port all the way to 48-port 1 gig switch. It's got PoE capability as well as an uplink of 1 gig or 10 gig. And then from there, you can move up to our 200 series that starts at 24 all the way to 48 ports. And once again, PoE capable with an uplink of 1 gig. 1 gig link. One thing to note here is that the 100 series, all of those models are layer 2 switches only. The good news is when you pair that up with a FortiGate, that doesn't matter anymore, because all your routing, all your dynamic routing, all that capability is now passed on to the FortiGate. But with the 200 series, you do have a layer 3 switch there, so it can stand by itself, or of course, better yet, bundled with the FortiGate as an entire solution. So moving up, we've got the 400 series. Again, once again, starting at the 48 port all the way to 48 port 1 gig with options for multi-gig connectivity as well, PoE options, uplink of 10 gig ports, dual AC, and once again, everything from here on in are layer 3 switches. And then from there, we've got the 500 series models. Once again, we've got 24 ports all the way to 48 ports, PoE options. We've got 10 gig connectivity uplinks as well as 40 gig connectivity, dual AC. And once again, this is layer 3. From there, you've got the 600 series, which give you 24 5 gig multi-gig ports, 32 2.5 gig, as well as 16 5 gig ports as well. So lots and lots of interface or connectivity options with the 600 series. This is also running the latest 802.3 BT PoE standard that gives you 90 watts. Uplinks, of course, of 25 gigs, SFE 28. Dual AC, of course, in layer 3. From here, you're moving up to the core switching line as well as the data center line. We've got 24 or 48 10 gig SFP ports, SFP plus slots, right? So, and you're getting QO8 100 gig uplinks, QSFP 28 100 gig uplinks, as well as 40 gig uplinks, hot swappable power supplies. And then from there, you've got the 2000 series. So it just keeps going up and up, 25 gig, lots and lots more ports, 100 gig, 10 gig, 100 gig uplinks, as well as 10 gig slots there. All right, from there, we also have, of course, for those that are in OT or manufacturing environments, or some dealing with harsher environments, we have some ruggedized switches as well. So we've got our 100 series, which comes in at 8 ports, and then also PoE in non-PoE versions. It's got passive cooling, no fans or moving parts, which is critical for, for these, let's say, dusty or harsh environments, right? We've got redundant power inputs, as well as these are all built to, this 100 series built to IP30 standards. And then from there, you have the 400 series, which gives you 24 port multi-gig ports. So you have options of 12, 1 gig or 2.5 gigs ports. You got 10 gig ports, 40 gig ports. Once again, this is fanless design, and this also has the 802.3bt PoE standard capability, and is built to IP40 standards. Moving on, we now can look at the APs. So we have, as I mentioned, Wi-Fi 7 now models. And then our external models are also, our outdoor APs are also IP67 rated. So which means, they can be deployed outside, of course, whether doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, or whatever the temperature is, they will continue to work. We do have wall plate jack options, as well as tri-radio with the ability to scan the network for any kind of security issues or anything like that, rogue APs. We also have models that are capable of doing inspection on board. So in case of a small branch, for example, there's no firewall, or the firewall is, let's say, in a different location, you have the ability to inspect the wireless traffic as well, just by having one of those models with the capability of the UTM. So in terms of the GUI, are enabling this technology and what that looks like. One of the things that you'll notice here, at least on the screenshot, is the visibility that you're going to gain when you adopt a Fortinet solution, right? So you can see here, it's a little bit tiny, but basically what it's showing you is your entire topology. From your firewall to your switches to your APs, and how many devices are connected and what kind of devices are connected. So this is the detail and the visibility that you're going to gain when you've got a FortiGate, a FortiSwitch, and a FortiAP in your in an environment. And then from there, on top of that, we are providing you, if you are not familiar with our solution, every FortiGate out there comes with SD-WAN, right? So if you have dual links, or you want to be able to control where your traffic traverses, whether it's your primary connection or secondary connection, or if it's just for plain failover scenario, you have basically SD-WAN built in, right? So that comes with every single FortiGate out there, whether it's a VM or the smallest desktop model that we have, you will have the ability to use SD-WAN. And that's just a feature that you turn on and you start using it, just like with our wireless controller and our switch controller. They're all just features that you turn on. There's no licensing whatsoever. On top of that, we can see here that we have the ability, and you will have the ability to see this in the lab, the ability to look at your entire AP portfolio and your configuration. So you can see here the different APs that I have in the environment, which channels are being used, what version of operating system that they're running, the profiles, as well as other you know, management options. When you do, let's say, right click on an AP, you'll have the ability to do upgrades and do diagnostics and so on and so forth. Of course, we are providing you the ability to upload wireless maps so that you can visualize where your APs are, where they're placed, and how many clients are running or connected to that AP, as well as you can see here some of the diagnostic tools that you have access to directly from the FortiGate GUI in terms of managing your wireless environments. So you can see here each of the devices that are connected, which SSID they're connected to, what the name of the device is, which channel they're connected to, the signal strength, the bandwidth, and so on and so forth, plus so much more. And then on the switching side, it's also the same thing. You'll have the ability to look at every port, the configuration that they have, whether it's a NAC port or a regular port, the VLANs, PoE settings, what device is connected to that port, and so on and so forth, right? So you have all control in terms of managing your switching environment. So as you have seen, this is a really cool solution, but don't take my word for it, of course. Gartner has, recognized as a leader in the 2024 Gartner Magic Quadrant for enterprise wired and wireless LAN infrastructure. So we're alongside, the big names in the industry such as Cisco, HP, and so on. So yeah, this is something that we've had for a long, long time, and I'm really proud that somebody like Gartner has recognized us as a leader in this space. And on top of that, if you do go into the Gartner Peer Insights website, which is basically where customers can submit their reviews for different vendors, we are recognized as a customer's choice for wired and wireless solutions, enterprise firewall, as well as our SD-WAN, which is once again, it's all part of our FortiGate Next Gen firewall. So to quickly recap here, basically what we provide to you is the ability to converge your network and security into a single solution, right? So what this allows you to do is manage your environment from a single console, centralizing everything from your perimeter firewalling needs, your wireless needs, your switching needs, even your cloud solutions, and so forth, and so on and so forth, right? So on top of that, of course, when you've got a single dashboard, single solution, the operational cost is reduced, and the overall operation is simplified. All your entire team is basically speaking the same language. They're learning the same products. They understand the same technology. So you don't have to worry about one person not being able to basically understand a different solution because they're not trained on it. Everybody is trained on the same solution. Everybody goes through the same training because it's the same operating system. It's the same management console. And last but not the least, it's the total cost of ownership, right? So as I've mentioned, all you need to adopt this type of solution is the hardware, so the FortiGate, the FortiSwitch, and or the FortiAP, and just a single license, which is the FortiGate license, which is a subscription to our FortiGuard services to basically ensure that you have the latest threat intelligence, for example, the antivirus, the application control, and so on and so forth. but there is no additional licensing whatsoever in terms of managing our switches or managing our APs. And then on top of that, you are getting the NAC solution for completely free. So you have the ability to control when a device connects to the network, for example, which VLAN they will be connected to just by the integration that we have with the FortiGate and the FortiSwitch, for example. And you can employ that as well on the SSID or the wireless side of things, where if someone connects to an SSID, you can put them to a different VLAN separate to the rest of the environment. So for example, you have a user, you have your employees connecting to your SSID, you can move them over to the employee VLAN, for example, and then when they connect their mobile devices, connecting to the same SSID, they can be moved to a mobile device VLAN, for example. That can be done with the integration that we have with the AP and the FortiGate. So as key takeaways, you can see here that we are providing you a simple, secure, but scalable solution that allows you the ability to deploy with zero touch or employing CDW, of course, to help you out with the deployment orchestration. You'll have not just visibility from the external threats, but also internally, because now your internal network is tied in to your firewall, and everything is just all in one. So you have visibility into everything, whether it's east-west traffic or north-south traffic. You'll have the ability and the control as well in terms of what goes on in the network. Of course, we've got a single management console for whether you're a single branch company or a multi-branch company or a global company. We have the management solution for you. In terms of licensing, I've mentioned there is no complex licensing involved with this solution at all. You only need one license, which is the FortiGate license, and that will be the subscription to our security threats or security intelligence, I should say. So if you wanted to learn more about this, of course, we've got our training websites. Training.fortinet.com website that you guys will be utilizing today. If you've never utilized it before, all the training that we have there is completely free. There are various topics based on your experience, whether you are new to cybersecurity or you're a veteran. There is a course there for you, whether it's a FortiGate, a FortiSwitch, AP, or again, just basic cybersecurity type of course. So if you have an ISC squared certification, such as CISSP, this training today or webinar is eligible for 4 hours of training. So if you do have that certification, you will be able to download your completion certificate at the end of the course. So as I've mentioned, our training website has all sorts of training available to you for completely free. So feel free to check that out. Make sure you sign up and take a look at what's available out there. One of the things that some of the courses that we have, of course, that are available around this topic of, networking and securing networks. We've got our FortiSwitch course, as well as Secure Wireless LAN course, and as well as the FCSS certification, which is for the LAN Edge, which combines the two together. Do we have any questions on the chat there, Reed? So far?
I've been keeping an eye on it. Nothing yet.
All right. So this actually concludes the presentation portion of this webinar. So we're now gonna go into the lab. So for those that sign up for the lab,